The Nabalis Vulp is an incredibly widespread balisong, especially among beginners, but it is not without valid critiques. And that is why Seeth Designs has made these reblades, which come in a trainer and false live version. But do these new blades fix any of the shortcomings of the original Vulp design? Well, to answer the second question, I'm going to have to unpack the first one first. Now, I got all three of these Vulps, the original, the false live version, and the trainer blade version, in the mail 3 weeks ago, and I've been flipping them a ton and swapping them around with my various Vulps that I own too. So I'll cover that experience and what you can expect when swapping these blades around. And like I said, I was sent these to try out and flip and test them and to make these videos, but this video is not sponsored as I'm sending these back after these 3 weeks of flipping it, and I did not receive any money or anything else in return for making this video. Other than he's letting me keep this Vulp 360 adapter. Thanks. So as always, the thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are my own, and while you could think of this as kind of like a review of these blades, I have only had them for 3 weeks, so just keep that in mind. But I have done a lot of flipping with these blades in that time. Now the price for these blades on the pre-order, the trainer is $20 and the false live edge is $40. And you can order those right now on seethdesigns.com. There's a link in the description to the document that goes into a lot more details just in general about this and lists the full specs. But I just want to share that in the beginning because it's important to know the price, and also be aware that the production price may go up a little bit depending on tariffs, but that's the pre-order price. And they're going to come serialized with laser engraved numbers on them from 1 to 50. And that's for the pre-order. Now let's get into how these things flip. Okay, I'm going to start off with the trainer blade here, as this was the first one that was designed, and it just feels like the right place to start because the original Vulp is a trainer. Okay, so overall, the flipping experience on the trainer blade is really great. I really like it. I want to first address that no, it does not change the chaplains. The chaplains feel still exactly the same as they do on the original Vulp. There may be some slight difference, but I can't tell the difference that much. Now, I think that the way that the original Vulp and this one, both chaplain, are acceptable. I think you can totally be used to it, and I don't think it'll hold you back, especially because you're not really doing like super tight, prolonged chaplains in most combos. I can get into these, aerial to chaplain, that kind of like reverse chaplain, all of that just fine. Really no issues with that, but they're not the stickiest thing. This is true. Now, the main thing that the trainer blade was meant to fix was to improve just the overall balance and add more tip weight. And you can tell that just by looking at it, it's going to have a lot more tip weight. And you can definitely feel it as well in flipping. This is just a completely side note, but I thought it was interesting. The geometry between these two fit perfectly. And I asked Ryan about it, and he said that this was not intentional. It also makes this reblade feel like it really does fit with the original Vulp design, which I really love. Now, as far as the extra tip weight and just the overall weight distribution of this blade, I could say it is definitely noticeable. When I first compared the two, I thought this trainer felt pretty similar to the original Vulp. But the more that I flipped it, the more that I've realized how it is indeed different. The fans tell you have a noticeable difference on how they fan. It's actually, I wish all of you watching could experience what it's like to flip these two side by side, because it's the exact same handles and it's very similar weight to the blade. It's just the distribution, as you can tell, there's less weight near the pivots and a lot more weight at the tip. And so I can go back and forth and feel like even just doing these fans. It's crazy how much when I first got it, I couldn't really tell that much of a difference, but now that I'm used to it, like telling the difference, I can tell. But yeah, fan tricks just feel a lot more natural to get into. And even trying to run through some fan variations that I'm not as comfortable with yet has kind of helped to gauge how much easier it is to kind of get into that fan. Like, because of the tip weight, the weight being further out, the balisong just wants to fan more. And overall, like, that's what I really love about this reblade. Like, it feels like the Vulp, but it just has that more tip weight, and so it's just better balanced for fans. So because of that, the blade feels lighter. It doesn't change the balance profile, though. Like, it doesn't feel, because typically you think, okay, lighter blade will equal more handle bias. But because the blade isn't actually lighter, it's just redistributed, in my opinion, better, it lends itself to a lighter, more agile flipping experience without getting rid of that light handle bias that I am just so used to. So I really do like that. So yeah, overall, I would say that this Dao trainer blade does lend itself to just feeling like the Vulp, except just overall a bit more light and nimble. And it's funny because I didn't think that the Vulp needed that until I really flipped this one. And so I would say that if you like your Vulp, then I think you would like this trainer blade as much, if not more. Now, I do need to point out though, that it is not perfect. I do wish that the pivot placement was adjusted on this trainer blade. Now, Seeth Designs, I did ask him about it, and he said he didn't want to mess with the pivot placement because he didn't want to mess with the geometry that people are used to. But I would imagine that, pushing these pivots together, and then of course you have to adjust the Zen nipple. Similar to what has been done on the Volt Pro, as you can see, the Zen nipple is thinner, the pivots are closer together. If I go in the center, that's what it looks like. If I line up just one of the handles, you can see how much wider it is. Lined up in the center again. And I know that was one of the things that Will Hirsch did talk about with the design for the Volt Pro that lended itself towards stickier chaplains. And I really wish that this reblade did that as well. Because honestly, this reblade is good, but I think it could have been great had he done that pivot adjustment. And if that did, without really changing much else, lend itself towards stickier chaplains. Even if the chaplains are just a little bit better, I think just the chaplains being a little bit stickier and hopefully fixing that issue, that would really make this just a really strong product. Because from what I've seen online, the chaplains is really what a lot of people have issue with the Vulp, primarily. So while the pre-order is locked in, of course, to how this one is, I think it'd be awesome if another prototype could be made in the production run, could have adjusted pivot placements, because I think that would make it a lot stronger of a sell. But overall, I really like this trainer blade. I think it looks fantastic. I love the Dao shape. It really does deliver on its intention of providing the Vulp with more tip weight and improving just the fans and how it feels to flip in all those tricks. I just wish that the pivot placement were adjusted to kind of help with the chaplains. I mean, overall, the quality as well is really good. This feels like it could belong on the Vulp, like it could be sold by Nabalis. It has the same just quality and machining. It is machined, CNC machined and hardened in China, but then there's some post-processing like with the bushing holes and the surface finish and the tolerances and stuff that is also done in the US in addition to the design. It feels like it really does belong, which is really nice. So there's that. I mean, the tolerances as well are really good. I really had no issue switching these around with my other Vulps. My original 3-year-old Vulp, that one was a little difficult. I think the washers are a different size, and so it was just a little weird. But I had to use like the hardware and the washers of this reblade, which the reblade does not come with, but it did end up fitting on these handles. And I was able to swap it with my other Vulp and this Teflon Vulp just fine. The sound is really good. Now, while the trainer version is very easy for me to sum up as just feeling like a more refined version of the original Vulp, of course not changing anything about the chaplains, but mostly how it feels to flow with fan tricks, and just overall gives the balisong a lighter, more agile feel. The false live version is a bit harder for me to put exactly into words what I feel about it. This version actually does feel closer to the original Vulp. Now, the false live blade does copy the trainer profile exactly, including the bottle opener cutout. Of course, it's going to be totally different because these have like these big holes in it and this is all filled in, but then it's also, tapered down this way like blades are. And so even if just like looking at this, you can tell that while the trainer has this huge chunk of steel that's flat, that provides it with a lot of tip weight. The false live, compared to the original Vulp, it is going to have more tip weight because it has, this whole chunk of steel coming out here. But I think it is going to be concentrated a little bit further down compared to the trainer, because the trainer has all these gaps here, but this does not, and it's tapering towards the end. And as well, overall, this blade is heavier than this trainer blade version, and it is also the heaviest. Now, I talked about with this trainer version, how the weight distribution makes it feel a lot lighter and more balanced and more agile in that sense. But I think that while this does have more tip weight, it also has more blade weight, and it is going to be just overall distributed differently than this trainer, or the original for that matter. But because of that, I just find that on flipping, this blade feels heavy. Now, because of the weight, this is definitely the least handle biased out of the three options. I can put a clip right here of me covering that a little bit. Okay, so I've lined the three of them up in order from most to least handle biased. And they're all on the edge of falling over. So you can see there's a gap. I don't know if I can show you in the orange one, but there's a little bit of an air gap in all of them. But you can see the handle sticks out further on this one and then that one. And it's definitely noticeable between these two. Maybe I should have put that one in the center. You can see if I move it just a little bit. Okay, so I've put the original Vulp in the center. You can tell that the Dao trainer blade makes it a little bit less handle bias, and the false live makes it noticeably less handle bias. So I hope that helps visually seeing how this one definitely is more neutral. But I think it's the combination of this blade being heavier and being more neutral, plus the added tip weight, that just makes this blade feel a lot heavier than it actually is, if that makes sense. And I don't know if it's necessarily like a lot heavier, but it's weird because this one actually does feel closer to the original Vulp in the sense that I can feel the weight of the blade a lot more. Whereas the trainer reblade makes it feel agile. This feels very similar to the original Vulp. But overall, it just doesn't feel as well balanced as a unit. And so I think because of that, I don't really feel the same like refined flipping experience as I do with this trainer blade as I do with the false live. But yeah, this version, honestly, like it feels to me like an original Vulp just with more blade weight. You can still flip totally fine on it. You know, you can do all your tricks. You can, but it doesn't feel like it's any better in some sense than the original Vulp. It just feels different. And some of that may come down, of course, to preferences where, you know, if somebody out there that likes, you know, that really doesn't like handle bias, that, you know, your knives have to be either be neutral, maybe leading blade bias, and you like feeling more blade weight, then maybe you'll flip this and you'll absolutely love it. But for me, the trainer just feels so much more like a refined and upgraded version of the original blade. Now, for both of these blades, they definitely feel very high quality. Like they feel on par quality with the rest of the Vulp. It feels really solid. You know, they have really nice finish. They're both really comfortable for chaplains. You know, they have a nice, you know, crowning on the spine. They both just feel really nice. They both have a nice unique sound. Training blade has a ring. False live blade has a nice deeper sound. And they're both easy to swap on all the different handles that I had. My original like 3-year-old Vulp was the hardest one to swap. That was just hard to like take in and out of its own, you know, with its own washers, just in general. Nabalis has definitely improved the process on that a lot. But all the blades are definitely compatible. They both fit the Teflon Vulp and worked really nicely on that. And they do not fit on the Vulp Pro. I mean, you can put it on, but because of the Zen nipple different geometry, the handles would go past the middle point, and so they would have like negative handle slap. So they're not compatible with the Vulp Pro. But yeah, I mean, I think for $20, that's an absolute steal for this blade. And for $40, I think that's also a good price. I know like the Vulp Pro blades, I think they're like $50. And I think like the Hydra blades, those are like $30. So it seems like a, you know, pretty competitive price from what I can tell. You know, I know that Seeth Designs is still, you know, a one-man company, extremely small even in the balisong space. So, you know, I think that's great. But overall, the quality is great. Now, to sum up the flipping of these, I would say that the trainer blade, with what it does with the added tip weight, it makes the whole balisong just feel a lot more light and agile when flipping. The fans just flow really well. It feels really smooth to get into various different fan tricks, which is really great. But I do think it is held back by the fact, once again, that the chaplain performance is just about the same as the regular Vulp. I think that adjusting the pivot placement, if that could be done, then this would honestly just make the Vulp feel like just a far better upgraded version of its original self. But as it is, I think it does accomplish its one goal extremely well, in addition to looking really cool. Now, as for the false live blade, this one feels like it was designed to give the Vulp a cool blade shape that is a false live, which essentially is what it was. I don't think that it necessarily really improves anything, at least in my mind, with the flipping. I think it changes the flipping a little bit, and I think that certain people would definitely find this to be more enjoyable and closer to their preferences. People that like more neutral balances and especially like a little bit heavier blades and feeling some of that blade weight, I think you would really like this. But to me, it doesn't feel like a noticeable step up in performance. It's just a little bit different. And of course, it is that false live blade, which you could sharpen yourself. So that's why I would say the flipping experiences on both of these. So who are these balisongs for? And I would say that there's two really categories of types of people. Now, the first category would be somebody that's looking to upgrade their Vulp and increase its performance. And to that, I would say, I think that this trainer blade is a good option. Potentially, you might also like the live blade and find that to be a more enjoyable experience for you. But I do think that the trainer blade, in my opinion, is just a better designed blade to fit these handles than the original. Now, like I've been saying, it does not fix everything. Obviously, it changes nothing about the Vulp handles. So if you dislike anything about the Vulp handles, then, you know, a blade is not going to help you there. And also, the chaplains are the same. So if you have, like, if your main problem is with the chaplains on the Vulp, then this trainer blade, I mean, either of these blades are not going to fix that. But if you are someone that does like how your Vulp flips, and you feel like maybe it could use a little bit better performance on the fans, or you just want it to overhaul, just have like a more refined balance, I would say that this trainer blade is the way to go. Now, I would say the second category of people that this blade is for is somebody that just wants something cool. Now, if you just want like a different experience, these will both provide that for you. Obviously, as I said in the trainer, I think its strength is how it increases just like the agility and fan performance. And as for the false live blade, I think its biggest advantage is its looks and the fact that it is a false live blade, which means that you can sharpen it if that's what you're looking for. So if you want, if you already have a Vulp and you really want to, try out a live blade, I think that's one option that you could go for. And you could also start slow because you could start with the false edge and you just have this very pointy tip, and then you can sharpen it when you're ready. Of course, if you choose to do that, that is on you. You do that at your own risk. I am not encouraging any dangerous behavior, YouTube. Okay, thank you. And it does work out that this false live blade version does flip pretty close to the original Vulp because that just makes it a little bit easier to transition to if you want to work on transitioning to live blades, especially because you can start with it, false live blade, just work on getting used to having that really sharp tip or pointy tip, and then you could, of course, sharpen it, which, of course, I do not condone any dangerous activity, and you should do that at your own risk. But yeah, ultimately, if you're just looking for something that is cool, and it's not necessarily because you want to turn your Vulp into an incredibly performant flipper, not that you can't totally do some crazy tricks on it now. I mean, you absolutely can, and I am a huge proponent of just learning how to flip whatever you have to the best of your abilities, and the fact that I don't think the Vulp really is what is holding people back from learning. I think it's more of a mindset thing. But either way, if you're looking for something if you're thinking that these reblades will be something that is totally gonna make the Vulp flip amazingly, I don't think that's necessarily the case. Honestly, for me, if the pivot screws were adjusted to be closer together and that did increase the chaplain performance, I think that you would have a much stronger case for getting these reblades simply on the basis of improving the flipping. But I mean, just look at these blades. They just look really cool. And Seeth Designs, he's designing some cool balisongs. And you know, I bought both of these blades. I think it was the day after I did my first impressions. And the large reason for that was simply because I do want to support him with what he's doing. And I just think that they're just really cool looking and would be fun to have in my collection. Because, you know, with the Vulp being something that's, you know, such a popular balisong, it's kind of cool, you know, to have something that is so unique. And as well, like, the Vulp, you know, means a lot to my personal flipping journey in my channel, because I would not be standing here recording a video if it wasn't for the Vulp. You know, my original Vulp is what got me to, you know, stay in the hobby and eventually make YouTube videos, which I did, you know, using that very balisong for quite a long time. So it's cool to see these reblades and to get to kind of be a part of some balisong history. And the pre-order blades are going to have some laser engraving numbered on them from 1 to 50. And Seeth Designs, he did offer to let me pick the numbers, which, because I guess normally it's random, but I went ahead and selected number 1 for both of them. But yeah, so let me know in the comments if you are planning on ordering these, and if you do, and which ones you get. And if it's, you know, far into the future and you have already received them, let me know what numbers you got if you got the pre-orders. If you can't tell, I do not flip doubles. But yeah, thank you once again to Seeth Designs for sending these out to me for 3 weeks to use and make some videos on. I've had a super fun time getting to try these out and to learn more about just how balisong design impacts flipping performance, and get to share my thoughts with all of you. So if you have any other questions, let me know. Like I said, I will actually be shipping these out, but I will have some blades coming in, you know, by the end of November. So I'll still have access to them to flip, and I can always answer any questions the best as I can. And if you watched it all the way to the end, thank you so much. I especially value your opinion. Let me know what you liked about this video or what you didn't, so I can keep improving and make better videos in the future. So yeah, if you want to see more videos that I've done on Seeth Design products, you can check out this playlist, which has all the videos I've done on that. Or if you want some inspiration for things to learn, you can check out this playlist here, which has a bunch of balisong tutorials in it. And I will see you in the next video.